Good morning and happy Sabbath, everyone. Our title for today is The Dragon, the Woman, and the Remnant. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Liberty of conscience, which has cost so great a sacrifice, will no longer be respected. In the soon coming conflict, we shall see exemplified the prophet's words. Going on to Sunday, the church revealed. What is seen at the beginning of John's fourth vision? So what do we see?
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under the feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So this is the scene that was shown to John in the beginning of his vision.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty straightforward answer, as we see in the verse here. Question B. In Bible symbolism, what is a woman designed to represent? Brother Dalibor?
Yeah, the woman represents the church. And we see it through the Bible, there are two kinds of women, right? It's faithful woman, which one represents faithful church or Christ church, and it's, how to say, the wild woman, which one represents the Satan's side and Satan's church.
Yeah, exactly. So, in other words, it represents the church. That's true. Exactly. Yeah, because it's always represented as like the church, and it says here in the Bible, the sacred and enduring character of the relation that exists between Christ and His church is represented by the by the union of marriage. So that's why the woman represents the church. Okay, going on to Monday, the church in conflict. How did the church travail in expectation of the Messiah child? Anyone? Yeah, Brother Dalibor?
I mean, yes, we now talking about birth of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Like he was said seed of woman, right? And how Satan tried to destroy it because he knew it that through Jesus Christ is coming. He's Savior, that earth is saved through him. So he tried to destroy the like through church before, but he tried to destroy him when he was born, because that's the seed of the faithful woman, and that through that it's destroyed the potential of, because he's claiming this earth is his.
Yeah, exactly.
And he doesn't want nobody to be saved, because he claims that everybody's sin and that are all his and they are failed, and that God's law is not righteous and that it's not possible to keep. And so all these things he tried to prove in front of the much bigger body than here, the control of the whole universe. Right?
Yes, exactly. And it says here in the last part of the note, the fullness of the time had come, humanity being more degraded through ages of transgression called for the coming of the Redeemer. So we see what the situation was like, and like you were saying, there was a great need for a savior at that time. All right, if there's no more comments, we'll move on to question B. What civil power is depicted by the great red dragon? Mom?
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 hands and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. Under the symbols of the great red dragon, a leopard-like beast, and a beast with lamb-like horns, and earthly governments which would especially engage in trampling upon God's law and persecuted his people were presented to John.
Yeah, exactly. So we see here it's not talking about necessarily one specific empire like we studied in the last lessons. It's referring to all these empires which had civil power over the people, and so these are referring to the earthly governments that were shown to John in this vision. Okay, I guess we can move on. Because of this dragon-like power, what danger did the church and the Messiah face? Sister Jasmine?
Tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Yeah. So we see Satan was just waiting there to, it says here, it was referring to Jesus being born, to devour the child being born, but it's also, we can apply it even further to like him waiting to attack God's people. And I really like the second part of the note, which says, Satan in heaven had hated Christ for his position in the courts of God. He hated him the more when he himself was dethroned. He hated him who pledged himself to redeem a race of sinners. Yet into the world where Satan claimed dominion, God permitted his son to come, a helpless babe subject to the weakness of humanity. He permitted him to meet life's peril in common with every human soul, to fight the battle as every child of humanity must fight it, at the risk of failure and eternal loss. And so we see this hatred didn't start now when Jesus came on earth. It started a really long time ago, as we'll see in some of the future questions as well. And he took that hate and projected it onto God's people as well. And this is what we're going to see from here on as well. Any more comments for this section? Okay. Third subtitle, War in Heaven. What insight into the past was revealed to John, and what does it mean? Sister Tanya?
Yes, in Revelation 12, 7 to 9, we have revealed this rebellion against God's authority. And it says here, and there was war in heaven. Michael, which means Christ, and his angels fought against the dragon, which is Satan.
Yeah.
And the dragon fought, and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So they have to find another place. And they were thrown from the heaven, and we know where they landed. And it says here, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So it is, I think, said that in one place that it was 1/3 of angels.
Yes.
He deceived them, right? And it's interesting here, you know, we are said what kind of methods he was using. He wanted Christ's place, right?
Yeah.
So he did not hesitate to use lies and to pervert the truth and to somehow gain them for him and for his cause. And when he succeeded somehow, and it says here that some angels who were on Christ's side were not sure because he was claiming some things which were really bad. And then when these 1/3 of angels went to his side, then he went to God and he said, you see, now 1/3 of angels want to me to take the position which Christ has. So he was first luring them to come to his side, and then he was using that as an argument that they want actually to get what he wanted.
Yes, exactly. And I like how you said that. It was so subtle, these lies, that even the angels, they didn't realize. And you know, these are unfallen beings, but think about us, like we're born into sin, and how much easier it is for him to tempt us. When you think that he was able to like influence 1/3 of the angels, that's very mind-blowing. Brother Dalibor?
Yeah, go step by step, right?
Yes.
Like Sister said, he didn't right away came
No.
with his plan. He was first try to talk to angels that they are already perfect, and for them should be a little bit different law than for everybody else, because they are perfect, they are created, you know, they cannot make mistake, and whatever they do. So he tried to win them to be on his side, and slowly, but you know, everything starts with jealousy, right? This
Yes.
disobedience to the God, and he was very jealous because like Sister said, that God and Jesus Christ came with plan to create man and this earth, and he was out of that organization, and he thought he should be in, and he was jealous, and he want to take place over, but he starts softly, and today it's same thing.
Yes.
We will
It's
not
very
do
subtle.
we will not do big things at once. Every day a little bit, and we could go away from the Lord like pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Little bit, but same thing, to go closer to the God every day, closer and closer, and we will get much stronger and much closer to the Lord.
Yes.
Every day a little bit.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, moving on to B. How does the announcement in Revelation 12, verse 10 and 11 indicate the completion of Satan's being cast out during Jesus' ministry? What happens here? Who conquers? Yes?
The verse say, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death.
Yeah. And so we see here Jesus conquers at the end, right? And the saints, but it's only it says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. So Jesus conquered first, and then through that sacrifice, all the saints are also going to be able to conquer this and win against Satan. And that this is the plan of redemption, right? And this is what gives us hope and meaning to our lives. Anyone else? Yeah?
Sorry, in this idea encompasses not just a conflict here in this world, that it's a conflict with the evil.
Yeah.
So that the full intention of God's purpose of salvation and a sort of eradication of the evil, sort of in this like a prophetical verse, it encompasses. So, and it is all through Jesus Christ that are saved, being saved, and kind of like ambassadors to the whole world.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Fourth subtitle, War on Earth. What increased danger would now be presented to the church? So as time passes, we get closer to the end, and Satan knows this. And what does he try to do during this time? Yeah, go ahead.
So here, it's a beautiful verse, and of course we know kind of what it means. But basically, what it is indicating here, that it has been prophesied that this, as Jesus died, and his sacrifice was accepted, and he fulfilled his mission. Then Satan was, it says here, was so upset at like a seed or the faithful ones, that he made the life very, very difficult here on this earth for them. And so it is a sort of a clear indication how the life for the faithful ones became more difficult. It uses here the words like a wrath and towards the inhabitants of this earth.
Yeah, exactly. It also says in the note that the great controversy between good and evil will increase in intensity to the very close of time. In all ages, the wrath of Satan has been manifested against the church of God, and God has of Christ, and God has bestowed his grace and spirit upon his people to strengthen them to stand against the power of the evil one. So we see this battle, and we see it now. I think we see it very clearly now. We see all the time good and evil, and especially in politics when you think about it. And you see more and more and more evil, and it looks almost like Satan's going to win, because it looks like the whole world is almost on his side. But we know that's not the truth. We know that God has his remnant, which will conquer that in the end. Go ahead.
See, Satan was first defeated in heaven, and he was thrown out on earth. But when he was thrown out of earth, he was not bound just to the earth. He was still able to visit council and different places. But with Jesus Christ dying on the cross, like we always focus that Jesus Christ died for us. But that was much, much bigger scene than just Jesus Christ dying for us. That was when was revealed through God's character, through whole universe, but was revealed the Satan's character. So after that, when Jesus Christ died on the cross, the Satan was bound just to this earth. He was not anymore, he was rejected everywhere else because through his character was shown. So now, after that, he's focusing really on this earth, that he proves that this earth is his, and that it's not possible, still try to prove to the world that it's not possible to keep God's law. And we see that that's why it's so dangerous for people here and for Remnant on the end, because he knows there's not much time left.
Yeah, exactly. He's focusing his entire energy and power just here, like you said. This is his dominion. And in his mind, he's going to win, but God is stronger than that. And through his help, we can also defeat. Even though it seems sometimes quite impossible. You think, he's very smart. He will never come to you with something that's like easy for you to resist. It's always going to be something where you have a weakness that he's going to attack you in. Let's move on to B. Describe the experience of the church during the 1,260 years of oppression and persecution. Go ahead.
I mean, in the Revelation 12, it's a word like says, the woman fled into the wilderness where he had a place prepared for God, that they should feed her for 2,300 days. So this is a kind of establishment of a prosecution for 2,300 days, as we already mentioned. But now what is interesting, as it describes in the next, immediately verse 14, it says, the women were given 2 wings and a great eagle, that she may fly into the wilderness and to the place where she is nourished for a times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So it gives a clear indication that the God gave supernatural things, supernaturally sustain this persecuted church that fell into the, apparently totally impossible to stand for this dark period of time. We know that as well as, some of us visited, like Valdensians and different smaller churches that have been scattered throughout Europe. And eventually, Protestants fled to America, where and so this is probably indicated with the given 2 wings, like an eagle, to move away from this difficult phase.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, with that, you actually answered the next question as well, which was asking, what help came to deflect the assault of the human agencies that the dragon intended to use against the faithful? And here in Ellen White, it's talking about, they had this new world that was open to them, and they were able to escape persecution. And that's how the United States was formed, based on, having religious freedom, and it was a Christian country. And now it's interesting to see, the change. Like, we have the foundation of this new world being a refuge for Christians, and it's like shifting right now, which is, it's very interesting, to watch. But we know this because we have the prophecies. Sorry, I don't know. One of you first.
Like, to the history, God's always have his church, his faithful church.
Exactly. And
he is always there to protect them. And that's the promise all the way to the end. Like, we see whatever was Satan pushing more in those times of those 1,260 days, came Reformation. And that was completely turned things around, and we see in Western Europe, the kings or not kings, what's the called all over
Crusades?
No, the like kings, but knezevi, rulers of
Yeah.
they protected, and we see the papacy will take them over,
Yeah.
because they were much stronger. But we see the God in some way raise up the Ottoman Empire
Mm-hmm.
that papacy has to fight
Yeah.
them. And the Reformation has more freedom to spread in Western Europe. So we see God's using all kind of things in the world that's, we don't understand, but later on we see that was the purpose of that God's allowed even kings who are not godly kings, but he still used them, like we see in the Babylon and the Persia. He still used them that the truth could go forward, and I believe to the end we'll be surprised with some things what will happen, but something will happen that God protects his church.
For sure, for sure. We have this promise, and we know. And if you think about it, like today, it has never been easier to spread the message than like we have the internet, we have these devices, we have social media. Regardless of how bad it is, it can be used for good, because I think there has never been an age where this information was so easy to spread to basically the entire world. Like the most remote parts you go, people still have phones. Somehow, everybody today almost has a phone, and through that, it's very easy for people to find out about God, and maybe this is a way, for the message to spread. Okay?
And when you mention with this spreading, so Satan is sure that he cannot put away Bibles like they used to do in the time when it was Dark Ages, right?
Yeah.
But now what he does, people completely misunderstand the Bible.
Yes.
They completely misunderstand God's character. Satan leads them towards that they misunderstand, and that's where is our role. That we should shy, and that we should represent with our lives, with our behavior, that they could see the true character. That's why we need to pray every day that God give us that power, that we could represent His character, because the many Satan hard so hard to misrepresent God's character.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Thank you. Moving on to Thursday, the last subtitle, The Remnant. As the anger of the dragon reaches its peak, how are the faithful described?
So the anger of the dragon is reaching and point out the faithful people that keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is the seed of the woman. And the note says, some who today are living on the earth will see this word fulfilled. The same spirit that in ages past led men to persecute the true church will in the future lead to the pursuance of similar course toward those who maintain their loyalty to God. Even now, preparations are being made for this last great conflict.
Yeah, and Ellen White wrote this over 100 years ago, almost almost 200, almost 200 years ago. And it's interesting because she said, you will see this. And in a way, those words came true. I mean, like, I think about my grandparents and they tell me stories like under communist rule, right? Like, they were not allowed to worship freely. They were persecuted. But in some ways, it almost like made their faith stronger, because they knew that they're being persecuted for doing something right, for standing for God. And I think that happened. But I think the way it's going to happen in the end might surprise us all. We don't know how Satan works, because again, he does things so subtly, and we see things already unfolding, and it's a little hard. At least for me, I don't know, but I feel like he'll make it in such a way to show the whole world that, oh, this is like a crazy people, like they're not normal, they don't want to align with everyone else. They talk about peace and freedom over in the whole world, but that's just, a facade for him to hide behind. Yes, exactly. That's impossible. Peace with no God. Yeah. Anyone else? If not, we can go to the last question. How do the characteristics of the remnant describe the church in the last days? Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, here is the kind of conclusion of our lesson, and then kind of how they're represented. This is the keep the the here are the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. So one is the commandments of God, but especially connecting it to what previous question. Sorry, the previous question. It's reflecting like a faith of Jesus. So how? Let's say, how can we stand, or how do we know? People of a different. So obviously, it is not referred to the to the knowledge. Obviously, it's not referred to the sort of abilities. It is simply referred to the trusting in Jesus, faith of Jesus, or trusting in Jesus, or believing that Jesus has accomplished for us, regardless what position of life we have, regardless if we know what is tomorrow or if we don't know what is tomorrow, if we know what is going to happen or if we don't know what is happening, trusting in God or having a faith in Jesus, He will bring us from a day to the day, from today to tomorrow, and from tomorrow to the next day, and He will guide us and He will shape our thoughts and our mind. This is the only hope that we have, because snares of the evil we cannot ourselves in any way to get ready or overcome or prepare.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Sister Tanya, did you want to add anything? Okay. Yeah, but I really think also that the verse in Revelation 14:12 is just such a nice conclusion, that at the end you see that. And I'm sure many of us have had experiences in life, where sometimes you go through something so difficult and it feels like God's not answering, and it feels like, how much longer is this trial gonna last? But and you look around you and you see people who they don't know God, and they may do a lot of evil to other people, and it seems like everything is going so well for them, but at the end we see the result, and whether you see it for yourself or not doesn't matter. But I think even when you go through something difficult, when you have peace with God, it's not so difficult. You know that you're doing the right thing, and your conscience is clear, But for people who may get somewhere in life or may seem like they're prospering, but they got there the wrong way, they're never going to be happy, and especially at the end, right? Because you can't be in the middle. You either choose God or you either choose Satan. Yeah.
Just as you mentioned, let's say your grandparents, with faithful and difficult times, as well. Let's say I can remember, or let's say hearing a story from my grandma. They just became an Adventist, and in some of, let's say, within the war or whatever, shortly after, and their theology was not that great. They did not know many things, but the one thing that they did know is they believed in the God who cares for them.
Yeah.
And so many, let's say, really terrible situations or difficulties. And again, they trusted in God, and this is all what they knew. Even though they just became an Adventist, so they did not really have everything straight with their point of theology.
Yeah, exactly. Brother Dalibor?
And one thing was, it's scary here, but says that the remnant church will be brought into the great trial and distress. So we cannot just expect all red roses.
No,
There'll be
we
trials and serious things especially in the last days, and things what we cannot even imagine, and we cannot go through with no Jesus Christ. Only He could give us protections from that, and only He could give us strength that we could go through it.
Yeah, and I think it's also really interesting when you think, who is this remnant church? It's not referring to one specific church. It's referring to those people who, it says here, those who keep the commandments of God, right? And in church, you can sit next, like one person may stand for God, one person may not. And sometimes, and I think, I forget where this was written, but sometimes like great persecution comes actually from inside the church, even worse than from the outside sometimes. And that's a very scary thought when you think about it. But I think in the end, we all come to, like a crossroads where we have to decide, and we have to study the Bible for our own. We can't rely on, oh, well, I'll go to church and ask about this, because in the end, maybe we're not going to be allowed to do that. Maybe we won't have, freedom of worship or of gathering, and everybody needs to stand for themselves and know the Bible for themselves, and you can't rely on your parents, on your church, on anyone else to tell you these things and to tell you what you should stand for. And I think we'll be surprised how many people, that we maybe don't expect to be part of this will be, and how many we expect to be won't be, because nobody really knows what's in your heart except God and yourself. And my wish and prayer is that we are a part of this remnant church. Oh, sorry.
I was not here to hear discussion before, but you're on the 5th section, right?
We just finished, yeah.
Finish, yeah. I'd like to say that this great controversy, and I didn't understand this great theme. For example, Ellen White writings, 5 books that she wrote, Patriarchs and Prophets, Prophets and Kings, Desire of Ages, Acts of Apostles, and the great controversy. Ultimately, this whole set revolves around the great controversy. The first sentence in Patriarchs and Prophets is God is love. The last sentence in the great controversy is God is love. So the issue is God's character.
Yeah.
An issue is God's government good, And essence of God's government is his character expressed in his law. So Lucifer started the war challenging God's government, putting question in these angelic minds, is God really good? Can God be trusted? Can we do it better, in any better way? So God had to let it go, this whole controversy, to demonstrate, and this is often a hard question, why there is so much evil and suffering? If God is omnipotent, if he is good, why is he not destroying these evildoers? But he cannot do it. And ultimately, I'm coming to the 5th section. There is a people at the very end who will stand in defense of God's government, God's character, his law. This is the remnant. And we have a privilege today to vindicate God's government by standing for the truth, standing for righteousness, upholding the law of God. And God is waiting for that great controversy to end with such people who will be on his side. So may God help us to see what is an issue and to take a right stand.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's all of our wishes and prayers. So may God help us, like you said, to reach that point where we're part of this remnant. Thank you. Amen.